The room cracked open with laughter that felt like broken glass. It started as a harmless joke, the kind that slides under your skin and pretends it's clever. But it wasn't harmless, and everyone knew it. Chalk dust hung in the light, drifting like slow snow, while a pair of eyes tried to stand still against a wave. The voice at the front was calm, polished, practiced. Each word shaped to sound like order, each pause timed to pull a laugh. He asked a question that wasn't a question. He made a lesson out of a person. Desks creaked as bodies leaned in to watch. A pen rolled off a table and clattered on tile, the only honest sound in the room. Somewhere, a phone screen lit up, hungry for proof. The air thinned, the smile at the front spread, then tightened. The heartbeat in the back row refused to speed up. Silence arrived late and heavy, and the laughter died, looking guilty. Outside the window, the sky held its rain, like even the weather was waiting to see what would happen next. The bell finally screams and the room spills into the hall like a shaken bottle. Voices rush to fill the gap, big and bright, pretending nothing happened. But the story travels fast. Through whispers, through glances, through the way people step aside without knowing why. He walks with his head level, a line through a crowd that keeps folding back in front of him. A friend keeps pace, words ready, then swallowed. The lockers flash in a repeating rhythm, blue, blue, blue. A poster tells everyone to be kind. No one reads it. Near the stairs, the air feels cooler, the noise softer, like the school itself holds its breath. He tightens his grip on the strap and keeps moving. Somewhere a laugh cracks too loud, then stops, ashamed of itself. The steps ahead look steeper than they were this morning. He climbs them anyway, not faster, not slower, like every step is a promise he made to himself and refuses to break. In the quiet of the copy room, the buzz of the machine is a low, steady drum. Paper feeds, paper stacks, and a neat line of words lands warm to the touch. He stands by the counter, sleeves rolled, jaw locked, like a storm hidden inside a suit. Someone steps in, soft shoes on linoleum. A gentle nod that asks for nothing but offers a mirror anyway. The talk is plain at first. Lesson plans, missed assignments, the weather threatening rain. Then it turns. Not sharp, but sure, like a hallway that bends where you can't see. Polite words get heavy. The hum of the machine sounds like a heartbeat that won't calm down. Silence takes its place between sentences. The pages finish and no one moves to pick them up. In that stillness, there is a choice: double down or look closer. He doesn't choose yet. He lets the stack grow cold. Lunch roars like a storm trapped in tile and chrome. Trays slide, ice clatters. Someone drops a fork, and the sound skitters across the room. He sits at the end of a table near the windows, where the light is kinder. The friend lands beside him with a breath that tries to make a joke, but can't. Across the room, a group watches, then pretends they weren't. Screens lift, thumbs move, messages bloom and vanish. The line for pizza bends like a river around a rock. He takes a bite he can't taste. He keeps his shoulders steady because steady feels like control. Outside, the clouds thicken into the color of old steel. The room smells like fries and floor cleaner, a mix that feels like yesterday and last year. He hears his name once, twice, and lets it pass. A loud laugh bursts from a corner and dies when it notices him looking back without blinking. By last period, the sky gives up and lets the rain fall. It drums on the roof, whispers down the windows, and turns the courtyard into a soft mirror. He pauses by the glass and watches drops race each other to the ledge. The day presses against his shoulders, heavy but not breaking him. A thin voice over the intercom lists announcements no one hears. Somewhere down the hall, laughter rises and fades like a wave that never reaches shore. He touches the window with 2 fingers and leaves a print that fogs, then clears. He does not replay the moment. He files it in a place that won't rot him from the inside. He tells himself this: you are not what someone names you for a laugh. You are the steady beat that keeps moving. The bell will ring. The rain will stop. When the door opens tomorrow, he will walk through it again. Morning comes with a bruise-colored sky and a hallway that hums like a beehive you can't see. You can't see. The story has grown legs overnight, running ahead of footsteps, slipping under doors, sticking to the backs of jokes that don't land anymore. Eyes meet and bounce away. Lockers bang like small thunder. He keeps the same pace as yesterday, a straight line through noise that wants to bend him. Voices drop when he gets close, then rise behind him like a wake. A poster about respect flutters where the air conditioner coughs. No one bothers to smooth it. He counts breaths, not faces. The ache isn't loud, it's patient. A slow knot that tightens when someone snickers, then pretends they didn't. He finds a rhythm in the echo of his shoes and lets it carry him. He doesn't push. He doesn't hide. He just moves, steady as a metronome, daring the day to keep time with him. Inside the classroom, quiet sits in the corners like dust the light cannot reach. The lesson starts clean, neat lines on the board, measured tone, everything in its place. But the space between words feels crowded. A hand goes up half-hearted, then lowers without being called. He follows the page with his eyes, takes notes that look like they belong to someone unbothered, and refuses to fold. The clock ticks with that smug little hop it has. He can feel the stare before it lands, the kind that tests, the kind that wants a flinch to prove a point. He doesn't give it. He breathes through the long pause, lets it fall to the floor like a dropped coin. A chair squeaks too loud. The windows hold a pale morning that doesn't care about any of this. He keeps his pen moving, builds a small shelter out of ink and will, and stays there. The copy room hums again, but today the sound feels like a question that won't stop asking. Pages slide out warm and perfect, as if machines are the only things that know how to behave. The talk begins with surface weather, attendance, essays, a missing stapler, then drifts into a colder front. Polite words line up like chess pieces, careful and ready. A warning hides behind courtesy. A mirror hides behind a smile. He stands square to the counter, shoulders set, eyes steady, insisting the world is as he says it is. She doesn't raise her voice. She lets silence do the hard part. The hum thickens. Somewhere a bell rings in the distance. Neither moves. The last sheet lands on the stack with a soft sigh. The choice arrives again. Closer now, double down, or look closer. He reaches for the papers like a shield and calls it work. By lunch, the storm has moved indoors. Trays clatter like cymbals. Voices crash and break, and gossip slides from table to table, changing shoes and hats along the way. He sits where the light is kindest, the same spot as before, and lets the noise pass over him like rain on a car roof. His friend leans in, offers a joke with soft edges that aims to lift, not poke. Across the room, a cluster performs indifference, glancing in slick little cuts. He bites, chews, swallows, not because he's hungry, but because it gives his hands something to do. The ice machine dumps a fresh rush that sounds like applause for nothing. He breathes with the count of the air vents. 4 in, 4 out. The ache shifts, finds a new corner to sit in. Still, he stays. Presence can be its own kind of answer. Last period drags like a heavy coat. The rain finally finds the roof and drums a soft, endless pattern that wants to lull the building to sleep. Inside, a tension phrase. A question lands, and no one catches it. He watches the window, not to escape, but to measure the distance between noise and quiet. The day has carved thin lines in him that will heal clean if left alone. The board carries careful note. The room carries a careful tension. A glance drifts his way, testing the surface for cracks. He lets it pass. He takes one more line of notes, not for the grade, but for the rhythm of doing something right. The intercom coughs and spits two dull announcements. The bell waits, coiled. He packs slowly. Not late, not early. Like balance is a muscle you have to train. When the bell finally breaks, he stands with the same steady spine and walks out. The office air is still, the kind of quiet that makes paper sound loud. A door clicks shut, and a story lands on a desk in careful words that try not to shake. The room carries old trophies and a photo that never needed to explain itself. The voice across the chair is steady, but there is a pulse under it, a small drum that says this cannot be normal. A detail is offered, then another, like stones put down to cross a dark stream. The clock keeps polite time, but the breath in the room does not. Questions line up, simple ones that feel sharp when spoken. The answer is not a surprise, yet it stings like cold water. Outside the windows, the rain returns, thin and even, as if the sky is choosing to listen. A folder opens. A pen waits. The path is clear now, see? Name. Act. The door will open again, and the next step will be heavier. The corridor between offices feels longer today. When the door opens, the air changes by a few degrees, enough to make the skin wake up. Polite greetings line up like chairs before a meeting, but they do not hide what waits. He enters with the look of a man who rehearsed calm in a mirror. She stands with a stillness that does not need height to be tall. Words begin with care, each one folded in cloth. Then the cloth falls. Facts are set on the table like clean instruments. A pause stretches, and in it, the shape of the room shifts. He starts to reach for excuses, the soft kind that sound like good practice. They do not land. The silence that follows is not empty. It is a scale weighing more than just tone. The rain outside keeps time. The next sentence draws a line across the floor. There is no going back over it. The office door closes and the room becomes a small world. He sits on one side of the desk, hands folded, jaw set, like he's learned how to make stillness into art. She sits on the other, the same photograph at her elbow, the same steady breath. No voices are raised. The story is told again, without decoration, and this time every word seems heavier because it is being spoken where decisions live. He does not look away. The rain ticks on the window like a metronome for truth. When she asks how it made him feel, the answer is small and exact. And it is enough. A quiet lands that isn't empty. It is a promise forming. A phone buzzes once, then stops, unimportant. She nods, writes something clean, and the world shifts a degree. Armor is not needed here. The room opens, not bigger, but clearer, and the path forward takes shape. When the door opens again, the hall changes key. The news has a way of walking ahead of people, but now it walks with purpose. Steps are measured, not slow, not rushed, just exact. He waits by a row of lockers, still as a held breath, while the office door stays in his sightline like a horizon. The faces that pass do what faces do, pretend they are only moving through space. A friend appears, a small anchor in a noisy sea, and stands without asking for anything. Somewhere a sneaker squeaks. Somewhere a laugh chooses a different hallway. The rain light turns the floor into a dim mirror. A decision is no longer a cloud. It is rain on skin. The shape of what comes next is clear, and for the first time today, it feels like the ground will hold. The meeting room feels different the second time. The chairs hold the shape of choice. He sits with shoulders lowered, as if the weight has finally been named. She lays out the next steps in clean lines. Not sharp, not dull, just true. Policies are not weapons. They are bridges when used right. He listens, and for once, does not reach for the soft cover of habit. The air carries the sound of rain easing, a slow fade that suggests a clearing. There is room here for apology that means something, and for a path that does not erase the hurt, to pretend it never happened. The clock does its simple work. A form is signed. A voice thanks another voice without ceremony. When the door opens, the day feels wider. The storm isn't gone, but it has changed shape. The next bell will sound like a beginning, not an end. First period ends and the building gathers like a throat clearing before a speech. A memo lands in inboxes, then another, and the hallway air tightens with the soft click of doors opening at once. The meeting has a title that sounds harmless, but everyone knows the undertow. Chairs scrape in a chorus. Footsteps find the same room with a quiet that feels louder than gossip. He walks there steady, the way a person moves when they've decided to stop running from their own reflection. At the threshold, eyes lift, not hunting, not kind, just awake. A projector hums. A screen glows blank, waiting for words that weigh more than light. The sky outside has shrugged off most of the rain, leaving the windows clouded with the memory of it. In that in-between brightness, truth feels less like a hammer and more like a lens finally focused. The door closes. Pages turn. Breath steadies. The presentation begins with policies. Every adult in the room swears they know by heart. Then, the slide changes, and the room leans forward without moving. Not names, not headlines, just actions. The kind that seem small until you lay them side by side and see the pattern they make. The words are simple. The pauses are careful. No one needs a raised voice. He sits in the front row, hands folded, heartbeat calm enough to hear the projector fan. He knows the language of defense, could speak it in his sleep. But the rhythm feels wrong now, offbeat in a way you can't hide with grammar. A chair creaks when someone shifts, and the sound slices the quiet cleanly. The screen holds one last line that doesn't blame, doesn't soften. It names a duty. When the lights lift, faces carry a new weight, less anger than clarity. He exhales, and it fogs nothing. The discussion opens, and the room changes temperature. Words arrive slow at first, then find a path. No one speaks for show. A few admit what they missed, what they let pass because it was easier, because it sounded like order wearing good shoes. He clears his throat and stands, not to defend, but to hold his own choices till light. The sentences he chooses are plain, the kind that don't hide behind clever. He says what he did, what it did, what he will not do again. The roof fans whir, a low, steady mercy that fills the space between syllables. Across the circle, someone nods once and looks down, as if relief arrived without ceremony. The room breathes. The apology does not fix a week, a year, a system. But it is a hinge that turns. It is the sound of a lock sliding back so a door can move. The hallway after is quieter, not empty, just tuned to a kinder key. Word travels again, but this time it carries less sting and more steadiness. He walks beside the friend who never asked for a performance, only presence. The metal of the lockers throws back a softer light. A few faces meet his eyes and don't dart away. The building exhales, a long breath it had held for too many bell cycles. Outside, clouds shred into thin, bright cloth, and sun threads through the gaps, stitching silver onto the floor. At the corner where voices used to bend sharp, they curve gently now. He doesn't smile for the camera that isn't there. He just lets his shoulders drop a fraction and feels the difference between enduring and belonging. Far down the hall, the office door is open. The world doesn't feel small. It feels exact. Afternoon settles with the kind of calm that doesn't brag. The courtyard glows wet and bright, the storm's last footprints drying into nothing. He steps out and lets the air move across his face. Behind him, a door opens on careful footsteps that do not try to be lighter than they are. The voice that joins him is lower, slower, stripped of polish. No speeches, no bargains, only the truth said once cleanly and left to stand. He listens, not because he's expected to, but because the words are finally shaped like respect. Silence follows, and it isn't empty. It's room being made. A hand does not reach out. It doesn't have to. The line between them isn't a wall now. It's a bridge that both can cross when they're ready. A breeze moves the last drops off a branch. Somewhere a bell rings, ordinary as bread. The day keeps going. So do they. The courtyard smells like wet brick and leaf breath, a clean scent after hours of heavy sky. He waits under the eave, where the drip forms a steady metronome, counting beats he cannot name. Footsteps approach, soft, careful, close enough to hear the breath hitch, then smooth out. Words arrive without armor this time, plain, unsweetened, shaped to fit truth instead of pride. The apology is not large, and that makes it real. It does not ask to be forgiven. It asks to be heard. He stands with his hands open, not to accept, not to refuse, just to let the air move between them. The silence that follows is the first gentle thing all day. Cars hum beyond the fence like a far river. A breeze lifts the hood string and lets it fall. He nods once, a small door unlocking. The world does not change color, but the edges soften. Like the rain taught everything to listen. They walk a slow circle under the covered path, the kind of loop you make when you don't want the talk to end too soon or turn too fast. He explains without excuses, tracing the shape of how easy it is to hide harm behind neat words and tidy tone. The other listens, chin level, eyes steady, not granting a rescue, not withholding it either. A bench holds last night's rain in its slats. A bird shakes water from its wings and startles itself into flight. The small things feel louder, more honest. He says what landed and how it landed, with the precision of someone who has waited for his moment to name the bruise. The apology stretches to fit that new shape. It is not lighter now, but it sits better in the hands. When they reach the end of the covered path, they turn and walk it again, keeping time with their own softer steps. In the library, the air carries a hush that does not judge, only keeps. They choose a table by the wide window where the glass holds the last silver of the storm. He lays out the assignment they were meant to discuss yesterday, a bridge back to the ordinary. And somehow, the ordinary feels brave. They talk about themes and voice, about the way a story can harm or heal depending on who gets to speak. The conversation opens like blinds turning, each slat letting in a stripe of light. He does not perform. He does not retreat. He answers with the steadiness he used to move through hallways that bent around him. Across the room, a printer hums and stops as if nodding along. The clock ticks without edge. When they rise, the chairs make a small sound that feels ceremonial. A seal pressed into cooling wax. Walking out today seems newly readable. By the time the sun pushes through fully, the campus looks rinsed and ready. He meets his friend near the steps where they have shared both noise and quiet. And for once, the quiet wins. The story spills out in fewer words than expected, because the important parts already live behind the eyes. Gratitude is spoken without ceremony. Humor shows up with soft shoes and does not overstay. They stand there a while, letting the air write its own easy commas between sentences. No victory pose, no chorus. Just a steadier pulse and the simple relief of being seen without being asked to prove it. A skateboard rattles past, and the rider lifts 2 fingers in passing peace. The moment holds. It is not a finish line. It is a rest stop, with clean water and shade. They pick up their bags, lighter than they were, and step into the kind of afternoon that invites next steps. One day, evening leans in, and the sky trades silver for a tender blue. He walks the long way out past the gym and the track, letting the day stretch behind him like a road he actually wants to remember. The building's windows hold small squares of after-school life. Practice, tutoring, one light left on in a room that never seems to close. He stops at the gate and looks back, not to measure distance, but to mark direction. The lesson he carries isn't about grammar or grades. It is about how a voice can stand its ground without hardening into stone. It is about how an apology can be a door, not a broom. Breathing the cooler air, he makes a quiet promise to his future self. Keep the steady beat, keep the open hand, keep the line true. Then he turns toward home, and the streetlight flickers on as if blessing the way. Morning pours through the windows like a kinder bell. The room is the same. Boards, desks, the clock with its tiny hop. But the air has loosened, like someone opened a hard fist. The lesson starts with a story instead of a rule. Words travel slower, so their edges don't cut. A question lands in the middle row without fear, and the answer doesn't hurry to impress. He writes on the board, then steps aside so the view is clear for everyone, as if the space itself matters as much as the text. A joke appears and dissolves. Not the sharp kind, but the shared kind that leaves no bruises. The pause that follows is soft, an open door instead of a wall. Outside, a new sun washes the courtyard. Inside, pens move in steady rhythm. The room is learning something bigger than chapters and tests: how to hear a voice and leave it standing when the bell rings. In the library, silence glows instead of scolding. Tables hold clusters that don't look like teams so much as bridges. He circles slowly, not patrolling, just present, letting questions find him like birds that trust a quiet hand. The talk is about voice, how to write it, how to honor it, how to share a room with it without sanding away its truth. Pages rustle, pencils whisper, and the tall windows keep the rain memory like faint silver on the glass. A pair at the back reads aloud in turns, stumbling once, laughing once, then finding a clean rhythm. He kneels beside a chair to listen, eye level with the speaker, and the room breathes easier because of it. Somewhere a cart rolls by with a soft rattle, shelving yesterday where it belongs. When the bell threatens, no one flinches. The work feels lighter not because it shrank, but because more hands are holding it. The staff room used to echo with quick fixes and tired shrugs. Today it holds slower talk that chews before it swallows. A plan spreads across a table. Simple steps that look small until you remember how many feet will walk them. Training sessions, classroom circles, a place to report harm without fear of being labeled the problem. No one pretends the work is done because a few sentences landed right last week. The coffee tastes the same, but it doesn't have to carry as much. A story is shared that stings. Another is shared that lifts. Pens click, then rest. The room isn't chasing applause. It is building a floor where feet can land without slipping. When the meeting ends, the chairs slide back with the quiet grace of a new habit forming. The door opens to a hallway that sounds almost like a fresh page turning under a steady hand. Lunch hums, but the notes have changed. The end table by the window hosts a new kind of chorus, the easy kind that doesn't need a spotlight. He sits with the friend who showed up when echoes were sharp, and the talk moves from classes to music, to whatever the sky plans for the weekend. Across the room, a laugh bursts loud and clean, not aimed like a dart, but tossed like a beach ball. A tray scrapes, ice clinks, a carton pops, and none of it feels like warning. When a first-year student passes and hesitates, an open seat is offered without ceremony. The newcomer drifts in, sets down a tray, and the circle breathes wider. Screens stay face down, forgotten for a minute. The clock on the far wall loses its edge. If anyone is telling a story, it's the room itself, saying, "Here is how it sounds when people take up space without taking it away." The last bell leaves a soft echo that doesn't rush anyone out. In the courtyard, shadows lengthen like careful underlines. He waits by the low brick where rain once gathered, the same place where hard words turned into honest ones. Footsteps approach, the measured stride of someone still learning, still choosing. No speeches now, only a check-in that sounds like two simple bars played clean on a quiet instrument. Progress isn't loud. It keeps time inside the ribcage. They trade a few lines about the next unit, about who might lead, about how to keep the room open when topics press on old bruises. The promise isn't grand. It is a daily thing, a step-by-step thing. A breeze lifts paper corners and lets them fall. When they part, no one looks back to confirm the moment happened. The moment is woven into the walkway, into the light, into the way the door will open tomorrow. The auditorium hums like a heart before a race. Lights warm the stage to a soft glow while the seats hold 1,000 small storms, the kind that swirl behind faces pretending to be calm. He stands in the wings with a page that doesn't shake, not because the day is easy, but because his center finally learned how to hold. A banner droops from the catwalk, plain words that feel bigger tonight. On stage, the mic waits like a hand, offered without demand. The crowd's murmur breaks into pieces. Zippers, coughs, the quiet slap of programs on knees. He breathes in the wooden scent of the floor and thinks of every hallway he walked without bending. When his name is called, the moment doesn't tower. It just opens, the way a door opens when hinges have been tended. He steps into the light, not to prove anything, but to say a truth that will not bruise when it lands. The first words leave his mouth and land the way rain lands on warm stone. Soft, sure, widening in rings you can't see but feel. He doesn't read the page, he reads the room, finding faces that once turned away and now hold still. He speaks of a lesson that wasn't on the syllabus, how silence can be a mask and also a mirror, how dignity is not a favor but a fact. He doesn't sharpen blame, he shapes responsibility, the kind that leaves space for repair. There is no hero in this story, only people choosing what they will be when the lights come up. A laugh arrives on cue and doesn't sting. A pause settles and doesn't threaten. The mic pops once like a heartbeat clearing its throat, and he smiles without posing. When he steps back from the stand, the room feels taller, as if the ceiling learned to breathe with everyone under it. Applause rises, not the wild kind that burns out fast, but the slow-building tide that lifts without tipping. He lets it pass through him like wind through open windows. In the second row, a figure stands, not to take the light, but to reflect it. Words come careful, stripped down to their true bones. An apology is offered again, not recycled, not performed, and the room hears the difference. It isn't a rescue, it's a reckoning in present tense. The audience stills, the air carrying the soft tick of lights cooling above. He does not look away. He doesn't need to. When the speaking ends, there is no flourish, only the honest weight of understanding shared between two people and anyone willing to hold it. The applause returns, quieter, deeper, like soil receiving rain. What happens next won't be measured by noise. It will be measured by what stays. After, the lobby swells with talk that sounds like letters finding the right envelope. People move in small constellations, not circling a spotlight, but making room for one another. He stands near the poster board where announcements gather dust, and tonight even the curled corners look newly awake. A classmate steps in with a handshake that means more than it shows. A teacher nods, the kind that says, "I will do better and you can count it." A parent squeezes a shoulder with careful respect. He does not collect praise like badges. He lets it pass through, leaving only warmth behind. By the doors, the knight presses a cool palm to the glass. He sees his reflection framed by the school's crest and feels both smaller and stronger. The right kind of mix. Someone laughs, someone cries, no one performs. It feels like a beginning because no one is trying to skip to the end. Night settles on the courtyard in a soft navy that remembers the day, but doesn't replay it. He steps outside with the last few stragglers and tilts his face to the mild air, feeling the kind of quiet that doesn't ask him to shrink. The building behind him holds light like embers, warm squares in a brick hearth. He thinks of the first bell, the last rain, the moments that cut, and the moments that stitched. None of it disappears. It arranges itself into a map he can carry without bleeding. Footsteps approach and pause. No ceremony, just presence. Plans are made in simple lines: tomorrow's lesson, next month's forum. A list that grows like a tree, drawn from a single root. He smiles, small and real. When the doors sigh closed, the campus is not an echo chamber anymore. It's a place that keeps its promise. He takes the path toward home, and the dark opens like a road.